Dr. Kevin Hayes checked his medical bag one more time as the shuttle approached the massive Zephyrian space station. The metal structure looked like a giant spider floating in the darkness of space, with long arms reaching out in every direction. Kevin had been on many diplomatic missions before, but this one felt different. The Zephyrians were known for being difficult to work with. "Remember, Doc," said Captain Ryan Brooks from the pilot seat, "these lizard people don't like humans very much. They think we're weak and stupid. Just stay close to the team and don't wander off." Kevin nodded and adjusted his medical uniform. The red cross on his chest was clearly visible, but he wondered if the Zephyrians would even understand what it meant. He had studied their culture for months, but reading about aliens and meeting them face to face were two very different things. The shuttle docked with a loud clang that echoed through the small cabin. Kevin could hear the hiss of air as the two ships connected. Captain Brooks stood up and straightened his blue diplomatic uniform. "All right, everyone," Brooks said to the small team. "We're here to negotiate a trade agreement. Nothing more, nothing less. Kevin, you're only here in case someone gets hurt. Try to stay invisible." Kevin followed the team through the airlock and into the Zephyrian station. The first thing that hit him was the smell. It was like standing too close to a campfire mixed with the scent of old leather. The walls were made of dark metal and strange. Symbols glowed with red light along the corridors. The Zephyrians were waiting for them. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with green and brown scales covering their bodies. Their eyes were yellow and cold, like a snake's eyes. The leader wore a black uniform with silver decorations that marked his high rank. "I am Commander Vextar," the leader said in heavily accented English. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "You humans are smaller than I expected." Captain Brooks stepped forward and offered his hand for a handshake, but Commander Vextar just stared at it. Kevin noticed how the Zephyrian's claws were as long as his fingers. "We appreciate you meeting with us," Brooks said, lowering his hand. "We hope to build a strong partnership between our peoples." Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like a growl. "We will see if humans are worth our time. Follow me." The group walked through the station's corridors. Kevin tried to memorize the layout, a habit he had learned during his time in the military. Left turn, right turn, straight for 50 steps, then another left. The walls were covered with pictures that showed Zephyrian warriors fighting in great battles. In every picture, the Zephyrians were winning. They entered a large room with a round table in the center. Several Zephyrians were already seated, all wearing the same black uniforms. Kevin and the human team sat across from them. The negotiations began immediately. "We want to trade our metals for your technology," Vextar said. "But first we must know that humans can be trusted." "Of course," Brooks replied. "We've brought samples of our medical technology and communication devices." Kevin listened to the talks but found himself watching the Zephyrians more than listening to their words. He noticed that one of them kept scratching at his neck, and another seemed to be having trouble breathing. His medical training made him want to help, but he remembered Brooks's warning about staying invisible. The negotiations went on for hours. Kevin's back was starting to hurt from sitting in the uncomfortable chair. He excused himself to use the bathroom, hoping to stretch his legs and clear his head. A young Zephyrian guard showed him to a small room down the hall. On the way back, Kevin heard crying coming from behind a door. It sounded like a child in pain. Kevin stopped and listened. The crying got louder. Without thinking, Kevin opened the door. Inside was a small room with medical equipment that looked old and broken. On a table lay a young Zephyrian, no bigger than a human 10-year-old. The child's scales were pale and there was blood on his arm where someone had tried to start an IV. "What are you doing here?" The voice came from behind Kevin. He turned to see an adult Zephyrian in a white coat. This must be their doctor. "I heard crying," Kevin said. "I'm a doctor, can I help?" The Zephyrian doctor hissed and showed his teeth. "Humans know nothing about our medicine. Leave now." Kevin looked at the child again. The IV had been started in the wrong place, and the child was getting sicker by the minute. Kevin had treated many different species during his career. He knew he could help. "Please," Kevin said, "let me try." I've worked with reptilian species before. No, the doctor said firmly. Guards. Two large Zephyrian guards appeared in the doorway. They looked angry and ready for a fight. This human was trying to hurt the youngling, the doctor said. That's not true, Kevin said quickly. I was trying to help. The guards didn't listen. They grabbed Kevin's arms and dragged him away from the medical room. Kevin tried to explain, but they were not interested in his words. Commander Vextar appeared in the hallway, drawn by the noise. His yellow eyes were full of anger. What is the meaning of this? Vextar demanded. This human tried to attack a youngling in the medical bay, one of the guards reported. Kevin's heart sank. He knew how this must look to them. I was trying to help, he said. I'm a doctor. Vextar looked at Kevin's uniform but seemed to ignore the medical symbol on his chest. You humans are all the same. You pretend to come in peace, but you are really here to hurt us. That's not true, Kevin said. Please let me explain. Silence, Vextar roared. This is proof that humans cannot be trusted. First you try to harm our young, and now you lie about it. Kevin heard footsteps running down the hall. Captain Brooks appeared with the rest of the human team. What's going on here? Brooks asked. Your man attacked one of our younglings, Vextar said. The negotiations are over. All humans must leave immediately. Kevin would never hurt a child, Brooks said. He's a doctor. He helps people. He is a liar and a threat, Vextar said. He will be punished as an example to other humans who think they can come here and harm us. The guards tightened their grip on Kevin's arms. He could feel their claws, digging into his skin through his uniform. You can't do this, Brooks said. He's a member of a diplomatic mission. He has protection under interstellar law. Your laws mean nothing here, Vextar said. This human will be imprisoned until we decide his fate. Kevin was dragged away as Brooks shouted protests behind him. The last thing Kevin heard was the captain promising to contact Earth and get help. But Kevin knew that help might take weeks to arrive, and he might not have that long. The guards took him down several levels into the darker parts of the station. The air got hotter and smelled worse with each step. Finally, they stopped at a massive door made of black metal. One guard entered a code, and the door slid open with a loud grinding sound. The room beyond was huge and carved out of dark rock. It was like a cave, but Kevin could see that it was man-made. The air was thick with heat and the smell of sulfur. Red lights glowed from cracks in the walls. Enjoy your new home, human, one of the guards said with a laugh. You will have plenty of time to think about what you have done. They pushed Kevin inside, and the door slammed shut behind him. Kevin was alone in the darkness, far from his team, and far from home. He had no idea that his real test was about to begin. Kevin stood in the darkness and waited for his eyes to adjust. The heat in the cell was almost unbearable. Sweat ran down his face and soaked through his medical uniform. He could hear water dripping somewhere in the distance, but he could not see where it was coming from. The red lights from the cracks in the walls gave off just enough light for Kevin to see the shape of the room. It was much larger than he had first thought. The ceiling was so high that he could not see the top. The walls curved around like the inside of a giant egg. Kevin took a step forward and immediately felt something soft under his foot. He looked down and saw bones scattered across the floor. Most of them were small, like from rats or birds, but some were much larger. Kevin's medical training helped him stay calm, but his heart was beating faster. He heard a sound from the far side of the cell. It was like breathing, but much deeper and slower than human breathing. Kevin froze and listened carefully. The sound came again, followed by a low rumble that he felt in his chest. Kevin's eyes were getting used to the darkness now. In the deepest shadows against the far wall, he could see something moving. It was huge, much bigger than the Zephyrians who had put him here. As he watched, two large eyes opened and looked right at him. The eyes glowed with a soft orange light, like coals in a fireplace. They were beautiful and intelligent, not the eyes of a wild animal. Kevin had seen many different creatures during his travels, but nothing had ever looked at him quite like this. Hello, Kevin said quietly. His voice echoed in the large space. The creature did not answer, but it moved slightly, Kevin could see more of its shape now. It was covered in scales that reflected the red light from the walls. The scales changed color as the creature moved, going from deep red to gold to black. Kevin realized he was looking at one of the most beautiful things he had ever seen. The creature was chained to the wall with thick metal chains around its neck, arms, and legs. The chains looked heavy and painful. Kevin could see dark stains on the rock where the chains had rubbed against the creature's skin for a long time. Kevin took another step closer. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "My name is Kevin. I'm a doctor." The creature watched him but still did not make any sound. Kevin could see that it was badly hurt. There were cuts and bruises all over its body. Some of the wounds looked infected and were leaking a clear fluid. The creature's breathing was shallow and painful. Kevin's medical instincts took over. He forgot about being scared and focused on what he could do to help. He moved closer to the creature, holding his hands up to show he was not carrying any weapons. "You're hurt," Kevin said. "I want to help you feel better." The creature's eyes followed Kevin as he approached. When Kevin was about 10 feet away, the creature finally spoke. Its voice was like music mixed with the sound of wind through trees. "Why do you not fear me, small one?" the creature asked. Kevin was surprised to hear it speak perfect English, but he tried not to show it. "Because you're hurt and you need help. I'm a doctor. It's my job to help when someone is sick or injured." The creature studied Kevin for a long moment. "The scaled ones who put you here, they call me Monster. They say I am a dangerous beast that kills for pleasure." "What do you call yourself?" Kevin asked. "I am Ember of the Dying Stars," the creature said. "I was once a scientist, an explorer like you are a healer, but that was before the scaled ones destroyed my world and killed my people." Kevin felt a wave of sadness wash over him. "I'm sorry for your loss. How long have you been here?" "Many seasons have passed. I have lost count of the days." Ember's voice was full of pain, but not just from his physical wounds. "They keep me here because my pain creates something they can use in their weapons. The more I suffer, the more valuable I become to them." Kevin was horrified. "That's terrible. No one should be treated like that." "You speak with kindness, small healer, but you cannot help me. The scaled ones have made sure I cannot break free. Soon I will die here and my pain will end." "Don't say that," Kevin said firmly. "I've helped lots of different species before. Let me take a look at your wounds." Ember shook his massive head. "It is too dangerous for you to come closer. If the scaled ones see you helping me, they will hurt you worse than they already planned to." "I don't care what they do to me," Kevin said. "I took an oath to help anyone who needs medical care. That includes you." Kevin reached into his medical bag, which the guards had not bothered to take from him. He pulled out a small flashlight and turned it on. The beam of light showed him just how badly Ember was hurt. The creature's scales were dull and cracked in many places. The chains had cut deep grooves into his skin where they rubbed against him. Kevin could see signs of infection in several wounds. Ember's breathing was labored, and Kevin suspected he might have broken ribs. "This is going to take some time," Kevin said, "but I think I can help you feel better." Kevin approached slowly and knelt down next to Ember. The creature was even larger, up close. His head was the size of Kevin's entire body. But when Kevin touched one of the infected wounds, Ember held perfectly still and did not try to hurt him. "This might sting a little," Kevin said as he cleaned the wound with antiseptic from his bag. Ember winced but did not pull away. "You are very brave, small healer, or very foolish." "Probably both," Kevin said with a small smile. "But that's never stopped me before." As Kevin worked on cleaning and bandaging Ember's wounds, the two began to talk. Ember told Kevin about his people, the Pirathi, who had lived peacefully on a world covered in beautiful crystal forests. They were scientists and artists who loved to explore the galaxy and learn about other species. "We never carried weapons," Ember said. "We believed that knowledge and understanding were the greatest tools anyone could have. That belief made us easy targets for the scaled ones." Kevin learned that the Zephyrians had attacked Ember's world without warning. They had destroyed the crystal forests and captured any Pirathi they could find. Most of Ember's people had been killed, but a few, like him, had been kept alive for their unique biology. When we feel strong emotions, especially pain or fear, our bodies produce a substance that the scaled ones can use to make their weapons more powerful, Ember explained. They have been harvesting this substance from me for months. Kevin was disgusted by what he was hearing, but he kept working on Ember's wounds. That's why you're chained up in here. They want to keep you in constant pain. Yes, Ember said sadly. But talking with you has given me something I had lost. Hope. Kevin finished bandaging the worst of Ember's wounds and sat back to rest. His shirt was soaked with sweat from the heat in the cell, but he felt good about the work he had done. How do you feel? Kevin asked. Ember moved carefully, testing his newly bandaged limbs. Better than I have felt in many months. You have great skills, small healer. Call me Kevin, he said, and you're welcome. Kevin? Ember repeated as if testing how the name sounded. Why did the scaled ones put you in here with me? Kevin told Ember about the failed diplomatic mission and how he had tried to help the injured Zephyrian child. Ember listened carefully to every word. So you risked your safety to help one of their young and they punished you for it, Ember said. The scaled ones see kindness as weakness. They do not understand that true strength comes from helping others. Maybe not, Kevin said. But I had to try. Ember's eyes glowed brighter with what Kevin thought might be admiration. You are not like other humans I have heard about, Kevin. You have the heart of a Parathi. As they talked, Kevin began to realize that Ember knew a lot about the Zephyrian station. During his months of imprisonment, he had listened to the guards and learned about their routines and habits. They think I am just a dumb animal, Ember said. They do not know that I understand their language and their ways. Kevin felt a spark of hope. Maybe they were not as helpless as he had thought. Maybe working together they could find a way out of this terrible place. Over the next 2 days, Kevin continued to care for Ember's wounds. The big creature was getting stronger, and Kevin could see the difference in how he moved and breathed. The infection in the worst cuts was clearing up, and Ember's scales were starting to shine again. During their long conversations, Kevin learned that Ember was much more than just a scientist. He had been one of the most respected explorers among his people, with knowledge of dozens of different worlds and species. His memory was incredible, and he could remember every detail of every place he had ever visited. Your people sound amazing, Kevin said as he changed the bandage on Ember's arm. I wish I could have met them. Perhaps you would have if things had been different, Ember replied sadly. My people loved to meet new species and learn from them. We would have welcomed humans as friends. Kevin noticed that when Ember talked about happy memories, his scales changed color. They became brighter and showed beautiful patterns of gold and silver. But when he talked about the destruction of his world, the scales turned dark and seemed to absorb all the light around them. Ember, Kevin said carefully, you said you've been listening to the guards. What have you learned about this place? Ember's eyes focused on Kevin with sharp intelligence. Much more than they think, small friend. The scaled ones believe I am too simple to understand their speech, but I have learned their language well. I know their schedules, their weaknesses, and their plans. What kind of plans? Kevin asked. Ember was quiet for a moment, as if deciding whether to trust Kevin with dangerous information. Finally, he spoke in a whisper that Kevin had to lean close to hear. They are planning to attack your people, Ember said. A great assault on several human colonies. They have been preparing for months. Kevin felt his blood turn cold. When? Soon. Very soon. They wait only for the right moment, when many human leaders will be gathered in one place. Ember's scales flickered with dark colors. They plan to use the substance they harvest from my pain to make weapons that will cause great suffering. Kevin's mind raced. He thought about Captain Brooks and the rest of his team. They had probably made it back to Earth by now and reported what happened, but they would not know about the planned attack. We have to warn them, Kevin said. We have to get out of here. Escape is not possible, Ember said sadly. Many have tried before me. The scaled ones are careful and cruel. They make sure no prisoner ever leaves this place alive. There has to be a way, Kevin insisted. You know this station better than anyone. You've been watching and listening. For months, there must be something we can use. Ember looked at Kevin for a long time. Kevin could see the creature thinking, remembering everything he had observed during his imprisonment. There might be one chance, Ember said slowly, but it would be very dangerous, and we would both probably die. Tell me, Kevin said. The scaled ones have a weakness they do not know I have discovered. Their leader, the one called Vextar, is sick, very sick. He hides it well, but I can smell the sickness in his blood when he comes to watch my torture. Kevin was interested now. His medical training made him curious about any illness. What kind of sickness? It is something that affects their warrior class, a wasting disease that slowly kills them. Vextar knows he is dying, but he cannot show weakness to his followers. This makes him desperate and dangerous. Kevin thought about this information. How does that help us escape? You are a healer, Ember said. If you could cure his sickness, he might be willing to make a deal. The scaled ones value strength above all else. If you could give him back his strength, he might let us go. But why would he believe I could help him? He thinks humans are weak and stupid. Ember's scales shimmered with what Kevin was learning to recognize as amusement. Because you have already proven yourself, my friend. You healed wounds that their own doctors could not treat. You showed kindness to one of their young, and you have made me stronger than I have been in many months. Kevin considered the idea. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. Even if I could cure him, we would still need a way to get off this station. I have been thinking about that too, Ember said. During my months here, I have learned the patrol schedules and the locations of their ships. There is a time each day when the docking bay is less guarded. If we could reach it, we might be able to steal a ship. You make it sound simple, Kevin said, but we would have to get past dozens of guards, find our way through a station we barely know, and steal a ship we don't know how to fly. I can fly their ships, Ember said quietly. Before my capture, I studied many different technologies. Zephyrian ships are not so different from those my people used. Kevin was amazed by his friend's knowledge and skills. Every conversation revealed new depths to Ember's intelligence and experience. There's something else we need to consider, Kevin said. Even if we escape, we need to warn Earth about the attack. Do you know when it's supposed to happen? Ember's scales darkened with worry. From what I have heard, they plan to strike during what they call the Great Gathering of the Weak Ones. I believe this refers to some kind of human meeting or celebration. Kevin's heart sank as he realized what Ember meant. The Trade Summit. It happens every 3 years and representatives from all the major human colonies attend. It's supposed to start in just a few days. Then we have very little time. Ember said, if the scaled ones attack during this gathering, they could kill thousands of your people and cripple human expansion in this sector of space. Kevin stood up and began pacing around the cell, his mind working frantically. We need more than just an escape plan. We need a way to stop the attack entirely. What do you mean? Ember asked. Think about it. Even if we escape and warn Earth, it might be too late. The attack fleet could already be on its way. We need to find a way to sabotage their plans from the inside. Ember's eyes glowed brighter as he understood Kevin's thinking. You want to turn their own weapons against them? Exactly. You said they use the substance from your pain to make their weapons more powerful. What if we could contaminate that substance? Make it useless or even dangerous to them? It is possible, Ember said thoughtfully. The substance they harvest is very sensitive to certain chemicals. If we could introduce the right compounds, we could make their entire weapon supply worthless. Kevin smiled for the first time since his capture. Now, we're getting somewhere. Do you know where they store the substance? Yes, but it is in the most heavily guarded part of the station. We would never be able to reach it without being caught. Maybe we don't need to reach it ourselves, Kevin said. What if we could get someone else to contaminate it for us? Who would help us? Ember asked. Kevin thought about everything he had observed during his brief time on the station. You said there are different factions among the Zephyrians. What if some of them don't support Vextar's war plans? There are some who prefer peace and trade to war, Ember admitted, but they are afraid to speak against Vextar. He rules through fear and violence. Then we give them a reason to be brave, Kevin said. We show them that Vexitar is weak and dying. We prove that there's another way. Ember's scales began to show brighter colors as hope grew in his heart. You think like a Parathi, my friend. You see solutions where others see only problems. We're going to need more than just thinking, Kevin said. We're going to need perfect timing, a lot of luck, and probably some fighting skills too. I may be chained, but I am still strong, Ember said. And you have already shown great courage. Together, we might actually succeed. Kevin sat down next to his friend and began planning their escape in detail. They had less than 3 days to break out of one of the most secure prisons in the galaxy, sabotage a military operation, and save thousands of lives. As impossible as it seemed, Kevin was starting to believe they could actually do it. On the 3rd day of Kevin's imprisonment, heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor outside their cell. Kevin and Ember had been expecting this visit. They had heard the guards talking about Commander Vexitar coming to check on his prisoners before the final preparations for the attack began. Remember what we discussed, Kevin whispered to Ember. Let me do the talking at first. Ember nodded and made his scales turn dull and lifeless, pretending to be weak and defeated. Kevin moved to the center of the cell and waited. The massive door ground open, and Commander Vexitar entered with 4 armed guards. The Zephyrian leader looked even larger and more intimidating in the dim light of the cell. His yellow eyes swept over the scene, taking in Kevin's position and Ember's apparently weakened state. So, the human doctor thinks he can heal monsters, Vexitar said with a harsh laugh. I am told you have been wasting your time trying to help this creature. I've been doing what I can to ease his suffering, Kevin said calmly. It's what doctors do. Foolish, Vexitar spat. This beast exists only to provide what we need for our weapons. Its pain serves a greater purpose. Kevin noticed something that the commander probably thought he was hiding well. Vexitar's breathing was slightly labored, and there was a thin sheen of sweat on his scaled forehead despite the cool air in the corridor. Kevin's trained eye also caught the slight tremor in the commander's left hand. You don't look well yourself, Commander, Kevin said boldly. The guards immediately raised their weapons, but Vexitar held up a hand to stop them. His eyes narrowed as he stared at Kevin. What did you say, human? I said you don't look well. I'm a doctor and I can see the signs. You're sick, aren't you? Vexitar's face twisted with anger. I am perfectly healthy. I am the strongest warrior of my people. No, you're not, Kevin said, taking a step closer despite the guards' weapons. You have Catherian syndrome, don't you? It's a genetic condition that affects the warrior caste of your species. I've read about it in my medical studies. The silence in the cell was complete except for the sound of everyone's breathing. Vexitar's face had gone very still, which Kevin knew was a dangerous sign in Zephyrians. How do you know about that disease? Vexitar asked quietly. Because I've studied the biology of dozens of species, including yours. Catherian syndrome causes muscle weakness, breathing problems, and tremors. Without treatment, it's always fatal. You probably have 6 months to live, maybe less. One of the guards started to move toward Kevin, but Vexitar's sharp command stopped him. The commander was staring at Kevin with a mixture of fury and something that might have been fear. Even if what you say is true, there is no cure for that disease. Our own doctors have tried everything. Your doctors don't understand the underlying cause, Kevin said. But I do. It's caused by a deficiency in a specific enzyme that regulates calcium absorption in your bones and muscles. The enzyme can be synthesized, but it requires knowledge of both Zephyrian biochemistry and advanced human medical techniques. Kevin was taking a huge risk. He was making educated guesses based on his medical knowledge and his observations of Vexitar's symptoms. If he was wrong, the commander would probably kill him immediately. But Vexitar's reaction told Kevin he was on the right track. The big Zephyrian's eyes had widened slightly and his breathing had become more labored. You claim you can cure this disease? Vexitar asked. I can try, Kevin said, but I would need access to medical equipment and the right chemicals, and I would need your word that you'll release both me and Ember if I succeed. The beast stays here, Vexitar said firmly. It is too valuable to our war effort. Then I guess you'll die of your disease, Kevin said with a shrug. Because I won't help you while you continue to torture an innocent being. The guards looked shocked that a human would dare speak to their commander this way. Vextar's hand moved to the weapon at his side. You are in no position to make demands, human. Actually, I am, Kevin said. You need me more than I need you. You're dying, and I'm the only one who can save you. That gives me all the power in this situation. Vextar was quiet for a long moment, his yellow eyes studying Kevin's face. Finally, he spoke. Even if I agreed to your terms, how do I know you won't simply poison me instead of curing me? Because I'm a doctor, Kevin said simply. I took an oath to do no harm. I don't break my promises. Human promises mean nothing to me. Then let me prove it to you, Kevin said. Give me basic medical supplies and I'll synthesize a small amount of the enzyme you need. You can test it on tissue samples before you take it yourself. You'll be able to see that it works. Ember had remained silent throughout this exchange, but Kevin could see the creature's eyes watching everything with sharp intelligence. They were both walking a dangerous line, but it was their only chance. Vextar seemed to be considering Kevin's offer. What would you need? A basic chemistry set, some organic compounds that should be available in your medical bay, and 12 hours to work, that's all. And if you fail, then you'll be no worse off than you are now, Kevin said. But if I succeed, you get your health back and we get our freedom. One of the guards stepped forward and whispered something in Vextar's ear. The commander listened, then shook his head. My advisor reminds me that we attack the human colonies tomorrow. Even if I were to agree to your terms, there would not be time for this experiment. Kevin's heart raced. Tomorrow was even sooner than he had feared, but he forced himself to stay calm. Then delay the attack, Kevin said. What good is conquering human space if you're not alive to enjoy it? The attack cannot be delayed. Too much depends on the timing. Then you're choosing to die, Kevin said. In 6 months, maybe less, the disease will kill you. Your war will mean nothing because you won't be alive to see it won. Vexitar's breathing was becoming more labored as stress made his symptoms worse. Kevin could see sweat beading on the commander's forehead. There is another option, Kevin said quietly. Let me come with you on the attack. I can synthesize the medicine during the journey and treat you before the battle begins. That way you get your health back and still attack on schedule. Absolutely not, Vextar said. I will not bring a human enemy onto my command ship. Then, we have a problem, Kevin said. Because those are your only choices. Trust me and live, or refuse my help and die. The tension in the cell was thick enough to cut. The guards were looking nervous, unsure of what their commander would decide. Ember remained perfectly still, but Kevin could sense the creature's readiness to act if needed. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridor, and Kevin could hear the sound of running feet and shouting voices. One of the guards spoke rapidly into a communication device, then turned to Vextar with obvious panic on his face. Commander, we have a problem. 3 human warships have just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding the return of their diplomatic team. Vextar's eyes blazed with fury. Impossible. How did they find us so quickly? Unknown, sir. But they're heavily armed and requesting immediate talks. Kevin felt a surge of hope. Captain Brooks had kept his promise to get help, but he also knew this development could make their situation much more dangerous. Vexitar turned back to Kevin with deadly intent in his eyes. It seems your people have come looking for you, human. Perhaps I should send them your head as a message about what happens to those who threaten us. That would be a mistake, Kevin said quickly. If you kill me now, you'll never get the cure for your disease. And if you attack those ships, you'll start a war you're not ready for. Vextar was clearly struggling with his decision. The disease was killing him slowly, but the human ships represented an immediate threat to his plans. You have 1 hour to prove your worth, human, Vextar finally said. My doctors will provide you with basic equipment. If you can show me that your cure works, we will discuss terms. If you fail or try to deceive me, both you and the beast will die painfully. As the commander and his guards left the cell, Kevin turned to Ember with a mixture of hope and terror. "Well," Kevin said, "now we really have to make this work." 20 minutes later, 2 Zephyrian doctors arrived at the cell carrying a portable medical kit. They looked nervous and kept glancing at Ember as if expecting him to attack them at any moment. Kevin could see they had no idea that the creature was far more intelligent than they believed. "You have what you requested, human," one of the doctors said, setting the kit down near the cell entrance. "Commander Vextar will return in 40 minutes to see your results." "Thank you," Kevin said, politely. "I'll need to work without interruption if this is going to succeed." The doctors left quickly, clearly uncomfortable being so close to Ember. As soon as they were gone, Kevin opened the medical kit and began examining its contents. "Do you really know how to cure his disease?" Ember asked quietly. "I think so," Kevin said, pulling out various chemicals and instruments. "The hard part will be making it look like I'm helping him while actually giving us an advantage." Kevin had been thinking about this problem ever since he first diagnosed Vextar's condition. The enzyme the commander needed was real, and Kevin could synthesize it. But he could also modify it in a way that would give them an opportunity to escape. "What do you mean?" Ember asked. "The enzyme I'm going to make will cure his disease," Kevin explained as he began mixing chemicals. "But I'm also going to add a compound that will make him very sleepy about an hour after he takes it. It won't hurt him permanently, but it will. Give us a window to get out of here." Ember's scales shimmered with approval. "You are more clever than the scaled ones realize." Kevin worked quickly and carefully, using his knowledge of biochemistry to create the modified enzyme. The process was complex, but his years of training had prepared him for exactly this kind of challenge. As he worked, Kevin and Ember discussed their escape plan. The human ships outside had given them an unexpected opportunity, but they would have to move fast once Vextar was unconscious. "The communication center is 3 levels up from here," Ember said. "If we can reach it, we can contact your ships and warn them about the planned attack on your colonies." "What about the weapon storage area?" Kevin asked. "We still need to sabotage their special weapons." "I have been thinking about that," Ember said. "If we can get to the communication center, I can send a signal that will overload the storage containers. It will destroy all the substance they have harvested from my pain." Kevin looked up from his work with surprise. "You can do that?" "The storage system was designed by my people before the scaled ones captured our technology," Ember explained. "I know the override codes that will cause it to self-destruct." "That's perfect," Kevin said, returning to his chemical synthesis. "We destroy their weapons, warn Earth about the attack, and get out of here all at the same time." 15 minutes. Before Vexatar was due to return, Kevin finished his work. He had created a small vial of clear liquid that looked exactly like the medicine Vexatar needed. The commander would feel better almost immediately after taking it, but he would also fall into a deep sleep within an hour. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Kevin asked Ember. "I have been ready for months," Ember replied. "But I am concerned about you, small friend. You are brave, but you are not a warrior." "I may not be a warrior," Kevin said, "but I've had some training, and I have something the Zephyrians don't expect." "What is that?" "I know exactly where to hit them to cause maximum damage with minimum force," Kevin said with a grim smile. "Medical knowledge works both ways." Heavy footsteps in the corridor announced Vextar's return. The commander entered with the same 4 guards as before, but Kevin could see that his condition had worsened in the short time since their last meeting. The stress of the human ships and his own illness was taking a serious toll. "Well, human?" Vextar demanded. "Do you have results to show me?" Kevin held up the vial of liquid. "This is a concentrated dose of the enzyme you need. It will begin working immediately and should make you feel much stronger within minutes. How do I know it is not poison?" Kevin had expected this question. He pulled out a small device from the medical kit and used it to analyze the liquid. The results appeared on a tiny screen. "This scanner shows the molecular structure of the compound," Kevin said, handing the device to Vextar. "Your own doctors can verify that it matches the enzyme your body is missing." Vextar studied the scanner reading, then showed it to one of his guards who seemed to understand the technical information. The guard nodded and whispered something to the commander. Very well, Vextar said, taking the vial from Kevin. But if this kills me, my guards have orders to make both of you suffer for days before you die. It won't kill you, Kevin said, confidently. In fact, you should feel better than you have in months. Vextar drank the entire contents of the vial in one gulp. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Kevin saw the commander's posture straighten and his breathing become easier. Remarkable, Vextar said, flexing his hands and feeling the tremor disappear. I can feel my strength returning already. The full effects will develop over the next hour, Kevin said. By then, you should feel completely normal. Vextar was clearly impressed despite himself. You have kept your part of the bargain, human, very well. You and the beast will be transferred to a different cell, one that is less uncomfortable. That wasn't our deal, Kevin said firmly. You promised to release us if I cured your disease. I said we would discuss terms, Vextar corrected. Your cure has earned you better treatment, but you are still too valuable as prisoners to simply let go. Kevin had expected this betrayal, but he pretended to be angry and disappointed. So much for Zephyrian honor. Honor is for equals, Vextar said. You are merely useful tools. The commander turned to leave, but Kevin called out to him. Wait. What about the human ships outside? Are you going to attack them? Those ships will be destroyed as soon as we finish our preparations, Vextar said. Their arrival has actually helped us by giving us a chance to test our weapons before the main assault on your colonies. You're making a mistake, Kevin warned. Those are military vessels. They're not helpless like you think. We shall see, Vextar said with a cold laugh. Guards, move the prisoners to level 7. I have a war to prepare for. As the guards began to unlock Ember's chains, Kevin caught his friend's eye and nodded slightly. It was time to put their plan into action. The moment Ember's chains were removed, the big creature moved with surprising speed. His powerful arm swept one guard off his feet, while his tail knocked another guard into the wall. Kevin immediately lunged at the third guard, using a pressure point technique he had learned in the military to render the Zephyrian unconscious in seconds. Vextar spun around with his weapon drawn, but Ember was already moving toward him. The commander fired twice, but his shots went wide as the medicine Kevin had given him began to affect his coordination. What did you do to me? Vextar demanded, stumbling backward. I cured your disease just like I promised, Kevin said, picking up a fallen guard's weapon. But I also added a little something extra to help you sleep. Vextar tried to raise his weapon again, but his arms were becoming too heavy to control. Within seconds, he collapsed to the floor, unconscious but breathing normally. Is he dead? Ember asked. No, just sleeping. He'll wake up in a few hours with no permanent damage. Kevin checked the commander's pulse to make sure he was stable. You could have killed him easily, Ember observed. Why did you not? Because I'm a doctor, Kevin said simply. I don't kill people, even people who deserve it. Ember's scales shimmered, with what Kevin now recognized as deep respect. Your people are fortunate to have healers like you. They quickly gathered weapons and equipment from the unconscious guards, then began making their way through the station. Ember's knowledge of the layout and patrol schedules proved invaluable, as they avoided detection and moved toward the communication center. When they reached the communication room, Kevin sent an urgent message to the human ships while Ember accessed the weapon storage controls. Within minutes, they heard explosions echoing through the station as the stored substances were destroyed. Warning to all human vessels, Kevin spoke into the communicator. The Zephyrians are planning a major attack on the trade summit. They have a fleet preparing to launch. Do not let them reach human space. Captain Brooks's voice crackled back through the speaker. Kevin, thank God you're alive. We're sending Marines to get you out of there. Negative, Kevin replied. Ember and I are heading to the docking bay to steal a ship. We'll meet you outside the station. Just make sure that attack fleet doesn't get away. Kevin and Ember fought their way through the station as alarms blared and emergency lights flashed. The destruction of the weapon storage had thrown the Zephyrians into chaos, giving the two friends the distraction they needed. At the docking bay, they found a small but fast ship that Ember said he could pilot. As they climbed aboard, Kevin looked back at the station where they had been prisoners. "Do you think we really stopped their attack?" Kevin asked. "We destroyed their most powerful weapons and warned your people," Ember said as he started the ship's engines. "That gives your species a fighting chance. The rest is up to them." As their stolen ship flew toward the human fleet, Kevin felt a mixture of relief and sadness.